The sky above the celestial kingdom was torn. Jagged streaks of silver lightning cut through the dark violet clouds, and stars bled strange colors that no mortal eye had ever seen. Below, towers of black stone floated like islands in the void, tethered by chains of glowing light. Kale, a mortal warrior, crouched on one of these towers, his cloak torn, his armor scorched from battles no one would ever hear about. He was alone, or so he thought. For months, Kale had wandered the floating lands of the Queen of Stars, haunted by a single memory. Lyra, the alien princess, her hair like liquid moonlight, her eyes full of distant galaxies, had vanished before his very eyes. He had tried to save her from the cruel decree of the Queen, the ruler of this cosmic realm, but in his failure he had been punished. Every scar on his body was a reminder of that failure, a reminder of the love he could not save. Kale's hands shook as he touched the edge of the tower. The wind smelled of ozone and starlight. It whispered to him soft voices that sounded like Lyra calling from another world. He closed his eyes, remembering the day he had first met her, a being out of time and space, exiled yet radiant in her defiance. She had smiled at him, and in that smile he had found hope, a hope the Queen had burned away with her cruelty. He had suffered for her. He had endured trials that made mortals scream, walked through fires that turned flesh to ash, and crossed shadows that could swallow a man whole. And yet, Lyra had slipped away, leaving only the echoes of her laughter and a piece of her soul tethered to his own. Kale's heart ached every time the wind carried her whispers. He was bound to her, even in her absence. Kale, the voice was low and melodic, yet it carried the weight of the cosmos. He froze. The voice was not the faint whisper of Lyra's memory. It was alive, commanding, intoxicating. He turned slowly. Across the sky, a figure descended, her robes flowing like liquid night, her eyes glimmering with stars. It was the Queen herself, Aurelia, ruler of this realm, feared by all, loved by none, yet beautiful in a way that could make a man forget his own name. Kale's instincts screamed at him to flee, but his body refused. He had been hunted before, but this presence was different. It was not merely power. It was a gravitational pull, a force that could bend both body and soul. The Queen's gaze fell upon him, and Kale felt every scar, every wound, every failure laid bare. She smiled, but it was a dangerous, merciless smile, like a star about to explode. "You have suffered greatly," she said, her voice both gentle and sharp. "All for a creature that no longer walks this world. And yet that devotion has brought you to me." The words carried more than ownership. They carried a promise, a warning, and a curiosity that stirred something dangerous inside him. He wanted to speak, to demand what she meant, but the wind ripped the words from his mouth. He could only watch as Aurelia stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his, as if reading every secret fear and hope he had ever harbored. "You do not understand," he said finally, struggling to regain his voice. "I am not yours, my heart belongs to another." His mind wandered to Lyra, exiled and alone, her voice fading in the cosmic winds. The thought was like a blade through his chest. He could not bear the idea of losing her entirely, yet here was the Queen, bending the very sky around him, claiming him with a force that was impossible to resist. Aurelia's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "You have walked through fire for her. You have endured shadows that could have consumed you, and yet she is gone." She extended her hand, a swirl of starlight forming above her palm. "Come with me, serve me willingly, and you may yet find what you have lost or discover power beyond your imagining." The sky above seemed to pulse, the stars shifting as though alive, waiting for his choice. "I cannot serve you," he said at last, voice trembling. "I cannot betray her memory, I cannot betray my own heart." "But your choice does not matter." She stepped closer, and the space between them hummed with energy. "You are mine whether you wish it or not, and in time, perhaps even your heart will understand." He had endured endless pain for someone who no longer existed in the mortal realm. Could he endure this as well? The wind shifted, carrying a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. It was Lyra. Her voice, delicate and distant, wound around his heart. "Kale, do not let her claim you, not yet." He wanted to obey the whisper of the wind, to fight the Queen with every shred of strength in his mortal body. But the Queen's presence was overwhelming, like the pull of a black hole, impossible to resist. Her hand hovered near him, fingers almost touching, and Kale felt the weight of the cosmos pressing against his ribs. "Do you feel it?" Aurelia's voice was a soft murmur now, hypnotic. "The threads that bind you, the sorrow you carry, the love you have lost, they are all mine to weave now. And soon you will see that resisting is not survival, it is suffering." Could he endure her power, her dominion, without losing himself entirely? He did not know. The queen smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of her lips. Rest now, Kale, dream if you dare, and remember you are ours. The stars above seemed to burn brighter, almost as if laughing at him, teasing him with their impossible beauty. The whispers of Lyra's voice faded, leaving only a hollow ache in his heart. He had suffered for love. He had endured pain no mortal should bear. And now the queen had claimed him. Kale did not know what awaited him in the days to come. The trials, the visions, the temptations, all were yet to come. But one truth remained. The world he had known was gone, and in its place was a kingdom of stars, shadows, and an alien queen whose gaze could pierce the soul. He had survived the fire, the shadow, the void. But would he survive her? The wind whispered again, carrying a faint echo of Lyra. Kale, hold on. Kale walked cautiously through the halls, each step echoing as though the very walls listened. He was a guest in a place that was not meant for mortals, yet he had been claimed. The queen, Aurelia, ruled these floating towers with absolute authority, her presence a force that warped both air and gravity. Kale had tried to flee once, when the first nights of imprisonment had left him restless. But the palace was a maze of shifting corridors, staircases that moved like tides, and doors that led to endless voids. No matter where he ran, the queen's influence reached him. Every echo of his footsteps reminded him that he was never truly alone. Aurelia appeared without warning, her figure emerging from the shadows of a towering archway. Her robes shimmered like liquid night, and the faint hum of starlight clung to her like a second skin. "Kale," she said softly, almost gently, "do not hide from me, you cannot. Every step you take in this palace, every breath you draw is under my gaze. Your soul is not free. It belongs, at least in part, to me." And yet, even in this confinement, he could not deny the pull of her presence. There was something in her gaze that stirred his heart, something that called to him in a way both frightening and exhilarating. "You are trying to confuse me," Kale said, voice rough with tension. "I know what you are, a queen who takes what she desires. I am not hers. My heart belongs to Lyra." The mention of Lyra's name was like a blade across his chest. Every memory of her, her laughter, her gaze, her touch, rose unbidden, filling him with longing and sorrow. "I feel nothing but her absence," he admitted, "and it is mine to bear, not yours. I do not claim those who are indifferent. I claim those who can feel, who can endure, who can be shaped. But time, pain, and experience can change even the strongest hearts. You will learn this." Every glance from her reminded him that resistance was not only futile but dangerous. Despite his fear, Kale could not ignore the strange fascination he felt. Aurelia was terrifying, yes, but she was also a force of raw beauty and intelligence. Her laughter could warm the coldest night, and her eyes sometimes softened, revealing a depth of sorrow he did not understand. She had been a protector once, perhaps even kind, before grief and ambition twisted her into a ruler of shadows. One evening, Kale found himself in a chamber where the stars outside the walls shone brighter than anywhere else in the palace. Aurelia appeared, her robes shimmering like the night sky. She moved close, and for a moment, Kale felt the pull of her power as sharply as a physical force. "You carry your grief like a sword," she said quietly. "It makes you strong, yes, but also vulnerable. You have endured so much for her, yet you still hold yourself apart from me. Why? You may have power, you may command the stars themselves, but I cannot give you what does not belong to you. It is tethered to sorrow, to memory, to love, and all these threads, I can weave them into something new." "You do not need to respond now," Aurelia said softly. "I am patient, I have eternity." She moved back, her form blurring into the shimmer of starlight. "But remember this, love can be a prison as cruel as any chain. You have chosen to suffer for her once. You may not survive the choice again." And yet Aurelia's words lingered like sparks that refused to die. He could feel the threads of her influence tugging at him, soft but insistent. She had claimed him, whether he liked it or not, and in ways he did not fully understand. The fear of losing himself was real, but so was the strange, reluctant fascination growing inside him. In the days that followed, Aurelia began to test him in subtle ways. She showed him visions, memories of Lyra, twisted by shadow, dreams of power, glimpses of what could be if he chose to serve. Each vision was a challenge to his will, a temptation that clawed at his heart. She did not force him, she only guided, only whispered, only waited for him to stumble. Kale resisted, but resistance was exhausting. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lyra's face, her faint smile, her fading voice in the cosmic winds. Every time he opened them, Orlia's gaze met his, warm and sharp, as if she could read every thought and every desire he tried to hide. One evening, Kale wandered to the edge of a floating terrace, looking out into the endless void. The stars above burned with impossible colors, and for a moment he felt small, insignificant, and terribly alone. The wind whispered through the chains of light, carrying a sound he recognized immediately, Lyra's voice. "Kale, do not let her claim you, not yet." The whisper faded, leaving only a hollow ache. He was torn between the memory of love, the desire to save Lyra, and the undeniable pull of the Queen's presence. "You feel it too, do you not?" Orlia's voice broke the silence, soft and low. She had stepped onto the terrace behind him without him noticing. "The threads that bind you, the sorrow that drives you, the longing that consumes you. All of it is mine to shape. And soon the choice will not be whether you serve me, but whether you surrender entirely, or lose everything you love forever." He did not know which path to take. He only knew one truth. The first test of his soul, of his heart, of his will had begun. And the Queen, patient and relentless, would not let him forget who held the strings of his destiny. The celestial palace was quieter than usual, yet the silence carried a weight heavier than the endless void outside. Kale walked through the glowing halls, each step echoing against walls of black stone. The air shimmered, alive with Orlia's presence, though she was nowhere in sight. Every corridor, every floating staircase seemed to whisper her name. He had endured countless trials for Lyra, yet now a different challenge awaited, one far more dangerous because it came from within. Orlia had begun to test him in ways more subtle than before. It was no longer just the visions or the whispered promises of power. Now she sought to unravel him with emotion. One morning, he awoke to find a chamber transformed into a dreamlike scene. The floor was a mirror reflecting stars, the walls were ripples of silver and violet, and in the center, a single figure waited. "You came," Orlia said softly, her voice both commanding and tender. She did not move closer, yet her presence seemed to fill the room. "Good. You are learning slowly." "No, not yet. I am not asking for obedience. I am asking for understanding." Her eyes, dark with starlight, searched his face. "To survive here, you must understand me as I must understand you. You have suffered for love. I have suffered for power and for loss. Can you not see that we are not so different? You take what you desire and call it justice. Do not mistake me for a tyrant born. I am a tyrant shaped by loss." And for the first time he understood. To resist her fully, he would need more than strength. He would need empathy, cunning, and courage. "Why show me this?" Kale asked. "Why reveal your past? It does not change what you are now. And soon you will have to decide whether to remain defiant or to embrace the power I offer." And yet a part of him could not help but be drawn toward her, toward the danger, toward the possibility of learning her secrets and perhaps understanding the pain behind her power. That night, he found himself wandering the upper terraces, staring out into the endless void. The stars glimmered like silver fire, and Kale's mind was filled with memories of Lyra, her laughter, her touch, her presence that lingered even across the distances of space. She was fading. He could feel it, a subtle weakening of the tether between their souls. The more time he spent in Orlia's presence, the fainter her voice became in the cosmic winds. "Kale, do not forget me." "You worry about her?" she said, voice soft, almost gentle. "The alien princess, the one who no longer walks the mortal world. I see her in your eyes, and I understand why you hesitate. Love can be as cruel as any spell. I will not surrender my heart to anyone else. I can guide them, or I can break them. Perhaps I will enjoy this struggle more than I expected." He felt the pull of her influence, intoxicating and terrifying, but he clung to the memory of Lyra, to the love he had fought to protect. Yet even as he resisted, Kale could not deny the subtle transformation taking place within him. He was learning to read Orlia, to understand her motives, to anticipate her tests. Where once he had felt only fear, he now felt curiosity, a dangerous fascination with the Queen whose power seemed limitless. He did not trust himself, and yet he could not stop observing, analyzing, even admiring her strength. One evening, Orlia summoned him to a chamber filled with starlight and shadows. The floor shimmered like liquid silver, and the walls were veiled in mist. She moved to the center, her figure radiant and terrible. "Kale," she said softly, "you are learning slowly, but now you face a greater test. Tonight you will confront the truth of my power, and the truth of your own heart." And then the shadows shifted, forming Orlia's figure, her eyes shining with cosmic fire. You see now, she said softly, voice echoing through the chamber, that the path you choose will shape not only your fate but the fate of all you love. Lyra's soul is tethered to yours, yes, but she is fading. Every day in my presence weakens her, Kale. Every moment you resist me, you risk losing her entirely. And in that, Kale realized something profound. He could reach her, understand her, even if he did not trust her fully. I will not give up on her, he said firmly. Even if it means facing you every day, every moment, I will not surrender. The threads of your heart are already entwined with mine. In time, perhaps even your love will see what I offer. To survive here, he would need more than strength. He would need patience, cunning, and perhaps even compassion for the queen who had claimed him. And he knew this. If he faltered, if he wavered in his purpose, Lyra could be lost forever. The chamber faded, leaving Kale alone with his thoughts. The stars outside glimmered, indifferent to mortal struggles, yet he felt their light like a promise, a fragile, flickering hope. He had survived fire, shadow, and void. Now he had to survive the queen, and in that struggle, Kale began to change. He was no longer simply the mortal who had suffered for love. He was becoming someone who could navigate shadows and stars, someone who could challenge the queen's power without losing himself. But the price of this transformation was high. Lyra's essence was fading, Orlia's power was relentless, and the choices he would face in the days to come would test every part of him, heart, mind, and soul. Kale's journey was far from over. The queen's trials were only beginning, and in the distance, faint and almost lost in the hum of the cosmos, Lyra's voice reminded him why he must endure. Kale, do not forget the palace was silent, yet the stillness carried a tension heavier than any storm. Kale stood at the edge of a floating terrace, staring into the endless void. Stars shimmered like distant fires, painting the black sky with impossible colors. He could feel Lyra's presence, faint and flickering, like a candle struggling against a cruel wind. Every heartbeat reminded him of what he had endured, every breath whispered her name. Aurelia appeared beside him, her form bathed in the light of the cosmos. Her eyes held the infinite darkness of space, yet within them Kale glimpsed something fragile, a hint of sorrow, regret, and longing. Kale, she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of galaxies, the time has come, you must choose. To protect her, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Every step I took, every wound I endured, it was all for her. The consequences are greater than you can imagine. Even if it means facing you, even if it means walking through darkness, I will save her. Then you will see the truth of my world and the strength within yourself. Here lies the power to free her or to lose her forever. But the choice will not be easy. You must confront every fear, every desire, every failure you have carried. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, but so did a spark of hope. He had survived fire, shadow, and endless trials. Surely he could endure this as well. Aurelia's voice cut through the silence. The ritual requires sacrifice, Kale. You cannot take her without offering something of yourself in return. Are you willing to risk everything for her? He thought of every scar, every wound, every trial he had endured for her. He thought of the pain he had carried, the nights of loneliness and despair, the endless longing for a love that seemed impossibly distant. And yet he knew the answer. Yes, he said, his voice unwavering. I will risk everything. I cannot lose her. Not again. He saw the moments they had shared, the laughter, the fear, the joy, the sorrow, and he felt every pain he had endured magnified by the cosmos itself. But he also felt her presence, faint but persistent, guiding him, urging him to hold on. Kale, her voice echoed through the visions. Do not lose yourself, stay with me. The threads of the cosmos twisted around him, demanding a choice, power and submission or love and sacrifice. Kale's body trembled, but his heart was clear. He offered not his strength, not his life, but his empathy, his understanding, and his unwavering hope. I will not betray her, he whispered, and I will not hate you, Aurelia. But I cannot surrender her to the void. Aurelia stepped forward, her form radiant in the starlight. For the first time, she seemed truly human, vulnerable, and yet magnificent. Kale, she whispered, a strange softness in her voice. You have shown me something I thought lost. Perhaps redemption is possible even for me. You do not need to be a tyrant, he said gently. You can choose another path. You can be more than what grief has made you. Because you have seen yourself reflected in someone who endured, who loved, who never gave up. The queen stepped back, her form shimmering like a shadow in the light. You have done what I could not, Aurelia said softly. You have saved her, and perhaps even yourself in the process. And I will never leave you, she whispered. Aurelia stepped aside, her figure framed by the shimmering stars. Go, she said. You have earned this, but remember, the cosmos is vast, and love, power, and choice are never simple. Carry what you have learned. Together they stepped into the void, leaving the celestial palace behind. The stars seemed to bow to them, lighting the path ahead. They had survived fire, shadow, and the trials of the Queen, and now they would navigate a world shaped by choice, love, and redemption. Yet even as they moved forward, Kale felt the weight of Aurelia's gaze. It was not a threat. It was a promise, a reminder that the cosmos was alive, that choices had consequences, and that even those who had been shaped by grief and ambition could find redemption through empathy and courage. He squeezed Lyra's hand, drawing strength from her presence. We will face whatever comes together, he said. Lyra nodded, her smile radiant. Always, she whispered. And as they vanished into the endless stars, the Queen remained in her palace, watching, reflecting, and perhaps understanding that even the most powerful of beings could learn the meaning of compassion, patience, and love. The universe was vast, full of shadows and light, of trials and choices, of endings and beginnings. Kale had suffered for love, faced the Queen, and endured the trials of the cosmos. And now he had learned that true strength lay not in power, but in the heart, in empathy, and in the courage to fight for what mattered most. The stars shone brighter that night, as if honoring the mortal who had faced gods and shadows alike and emerged not only victorious but transformed.